Good evening, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. It's 6:30 p.m. and we're going to stand for the pledge. If you'll join us, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay,
Thank you.
John, turn your mic on. Pete, turn your mic on.
Thanks.
I can see it.
They don't listen to me when I talk to them. All right, roll call, Randy, please.
Okay, Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Marks. Trustee Marks.
Present.
Sorry, John.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas. Legal Counsel Roger Zappa is here. Staff present again is our Fire Chief Dan Shanahan is here, and committee member is Tom Bronken from the Library Committee is here. We have Superintendent Bodinas is on Zoom.
Perfect. All present and accounted for. First up is public comment. If anybody would like to come up to the podium and address the board before we get started, just need name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Leanne Kashmarsky, and I reside at 22 White Oak Drive in Oak Hill Estates. And I'm here tonight to talk about the water problem that we are currently having up there. We are part of a Type 3 municipal well system. There are 6 families on this well system, one of which owns the system. We have very, very poor water pressure. You cannot brush your teeth in one bathroom if somebody's taking a shower in another bathroom. It's a real issue. And the person who runs the water system doesn't want to be in the water business anymore and constantly tells us to drill our own well. So we have 2 options. We can drill a well, or we can, possibly township water, which is why I'm here tonight. We're on this water system because they couldn't get water on various lots up there years ago when the subdivision was developed. Our lot at 22 White Oak was never actually drilled on, and we suspect the reason for it not being drilled on is because the lot to the north of us was drilled, and they were down 300 feet, producing 1 gallon a minute, and the lot to the south of us was down 370 feet at a half a gallon a minute. Both of those houses on each side of us are also on the well system, obviously. And talking, we reached out to the well driller who put in the wells up there years ago when the subdivision was developed, which is Hockala Well Drilling. And he informed us that we didn't have a real good chance of drilling being successful up there because of, the people on both sides of us and how far their wells were down. And the bedrock. You never know where you're going to hit bedrock, and I guess it's pretty consistent up there from what he tells us. So we never know what's going to happen next. Every time this system fails, if there's a pump that goes out or there's a repair that needs to be made, the owner of the system makes the repair, and then he divides the bill up and he sends it out to us, which is pretty costly. We have no contract in place to protect us for anything. We were never informed of anything that we were responsible for this water system when we bought our house 20-some years ago. It's just getting to be a very contentious situation. The system, when you have a Type 3 water system, it is regulated by the county. The county has very few regulations in place. There are stipulations in place when you first put in a water system, but as far as it, maintaining it and as it goes along, there's really nothing that's in place. They just advise us it's a civil issue, and it, basically the owner of the well system can do what he wants. And we have gotten threatening notices to shut off our water if we don't pay his repair bills. And then he also charges us interest on things like that. So, not having water, folks, is a public health concern. Not having enough water is also a public health concern. We're kind of in a tough spot right now. So I don't know if, township water runs at the base of the subdivision right down 492. It passes Oak Hill Estates. If it's a possibility to come into the subdivision, what those costs might look like. A number of us met with Mr. Kangas and Mr. Bodinas. They were very gracious in talking with us about that. We just don't know where we're at or what's coming next. We have talked to a well driller that, nowadays they do what's called hydrofracking, if that might be a possibility. But at best, that's a crapshoot too, for where we're located. So, but we have to have water. And so I'm just here tonight to kind of make you aware of what we're going through, and if there's anything you guys can do to help us out, we'd sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne. Appreciate it. Anyone else want to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Ron Keefe. I would just echo what Leanne has said about the well situation. Mine's a little bit different because I'm on Pinehurst Drive. At 6 Pinehurst is my address, by the way. And I've been there 43 years now, and we get 1 gallon a minute. So it's been a struggle over the years to have enough water. We can't do our lawn and stuff like that. And these homes aren't cheap, but it would be nice to have water. So I know her situation is a little different than we have in Pinehurst, but we went down 305 feet, and that's what we have our water on now. Hacklet tried to go years ago down on the other side, and it went 400 some feet and basically gave up. So we have the same situation, and it's really, you come out of the subdivision, and right there is staring at you as a fire hydrant. Obviously, there's water. So, and it was really nice to meet with Mr. Kangas and Leonard and the other day. They were gracious to us, as Leanne said, and we'd like to keep this moving if we can, because we really would like a solution. It's going to be costly to put in another well, and it's going to be costly to put in water. But when I look at how much we're going to have to take off the value of our house when we sell it, it's going to be a wash anyway. So I think it will enhance the neighborhood, enhance the value of those homes, and particularly for resale down the road. So thank you for listening. I'm sure that we'll be back. There may be some more people along the way that will express some interest in doing the same thing that we're doing. But I appreciate your attention tonight. I'll conclude that tonight, but like I said, we may be back just to see what's going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ron.
Ron. Appreciate it. Anybody else wish to address the board? Okay, thank you. For board member comment in response to public comment, John, do you want to, or maybe Lenny, give an update? We're aware that this water problem is an issue, and steps that we have to take. We have legal here too, if that helps you.
Looks like Lenny's ready to respond. I'll let him go first and supplement with whatever he has to say if necessary.
Okay?
Oh, Lenny looks
Except
like
he might have froze.
He's froze.
He's nervous.
He'll be back.
Once in a while, he locks up.
Okay, well, in the meantime, the reason they're here tonight is because we asked them to come and inform you of the situation they're dealing with, so you don't hear it from us with potentially misinformation, because you know how that goes, right? The telephone game, by the time you get to the end, you're not even talking the same story anymore. So, in the meantime, Lenny has reached out to one of the local consultants for a preliminary opinion of probable cost to extend public water into that neighborhood. It would include a booster station, most likely. So there's an added cost that maybe most people don't think about on the front end. We did discuss that in our conversation with them when they were here, but ultimately, I don't think anyone really wants to rush into this without knowing what the impact's gonna be financially, at least ballpark anyway. So that's what we're trying to do. And it sounds like we've done this before, in the not-too-distant past. Lenny hasn't been able to find the file, and maybe it got circular filed when I cleaned Kirk's office, so it could be my fault, but either way, we're gonna start new. Any opinion of probable cost from back then would have to be updated anyway, so once we get those numbers in, we'll be able to meet with them again and discuss what kind of impact it would be from a special assessment perspective per property, and then take it from there. Because I'm sure that's what they and their neighbors are all gonna wanna know. Is this even affordable? So,
Like Lenny's back.
Lenny, looks like you're back. You were unstable for a minute. Oh, now I can't hear you. Hold on.
I'm gonna crank up the, let me crank up the volume here, Lenny, and you'll be fine. Okay, go ahead now.
I started talking, I was hoping I wasn't running over everybody, but pretty much everything John said is what we're doing here right now. We did go through and we were looking through all of our files and looking if there was another study done, and we couldn't find anything. So right now it is at the consultant. We gave them all the information and we're waiting for that to come back with the estimate.
Yeah, but like John said, this is more informational for the board. They'd come to us a week or two probably ago to kind of talk about the problem, and so we'll see. We are taking steps to see what it's gonna involve, but we sure appreciate you coming.
And Lynn, too, yeah, I was talking to Superintendent Bodinas about the same issue, and he has a pressure map in his office that shows the water pressure. And unfortunately, that area it's like where Ron lives in Pinehurst Drive, that would be in the one district, but then you just go up the hill and it's in another district. So it's a very interesting area as far as trying to get water there, because one's in a pressure district and one you need the booster station for. So it's kind of interesting how that topography is there and how and what we'd have to do to get that water, because in the back end of that subdivision, you're actually higher than the tank, so you couldn't use that pressure. You need that booster tank. But like where Ron is, he's lower, down and lower, and he could probably get pressure there, but in some of the area there you can't. You need that booster station, so.
Okay.
and the issue is the township doesn't just happen to have a postage stamp size piece of property sitting there in our name that we can slap a booster station on. So there's a little bit of an issue there, but if it gets down to it, hopefully then we'll have a property owner somewhere that's willing to work with us for, like I said, a postage stamp size parcel.
How big is the station, John?
Well, it really depends on the geometry of the piping that goes into it. It's not huge. I can't imagine it being over, well, let's just say conservatively, 2,000 square feet should be way more than enough. Half of that is probably enough, but I don't want to say that for sure at this early in the game.
It has to be sized too for, you know, what pressure needs to be in that district. So like I said, John is conservative because you're gonna need a couple pumps or 3. And depending on what the pressure needs are there, it can vary in size.
Yeah. What's the potential number of properties that it would be serving in that? Do you have any idea at that point in time?
I think it's pretty well defined. Unfortunately, I don't remember the number of lots off the top of my head. Were we ballparking about 65? Okay.
Yeah.
There's 65 homes up there now with 2 new ones being built, or there's,
Dan, did you have a question?
I was just wondering for Leanne, I don't know how long ago you purchased the property, but aren't they supposed to divulge information like that?
yes. However,
Sore spot, right?
well, we bought our home in 1989, or excuse me, 1998. The home was built in 88. The system was put in the late 70s, and as the attorneys that we talked to said, things were done kind of like the Wild West way back when. And we were just told that we were on this water system and that we would get a bill once a month. And we did. That's all that we were told. We assumed it was a bill just like we would get our Board of Light and Power bill or our Semco bill. It was a utility bill. We had no idea. And then in 2009, one of the pumps failed. And we got a $500 and some bill in the mail for the new pump, our share of the new pump. And when we questioned that, we were told, well, this is your cost for the repair, and if you don't like it, I'll give you 30 days to drill your well, and then I'll shut your water off. This was in the month of February. That was the first situation. We finally got through that, and then the company was turned over to the Sun in 2010, and we had hoped that things would be better, because what was interesting, what came to light at that point, is that even though the system had been in since the 70s, there never was a maintenance fund set up, even though they're running a mini utility here. So, you know, and then things didn't change, and then recently we had 2 pumps that needed to be replaced, so we got a bill for like $1,100 on top of our water bill. And so what happens when something bigger fails? I mean, it could end up being more than what our house is worth. And our house is worth quite a bit. I mean, it's just and as far as what the county said is that there actually should be a what they think should be in place is a contract. The contract should be then recorded with the parcel at the courthouse. And this was actually brought up by one of the attorneys that we met with as well. None of that kind of thing was ever done. And when you buy your house, our house was an estate, so I can't say too much about how things got passed along, because estate people that are representing an estate, they don't know what goes on with the house or whatever, the history, they're not responsible for that. But they're like our neighbors to the south of us, they just purchased that home 4 or 5 years ago, and the attorney said that there's the statute of limitation on fraud is 6 years. That you know, they should have been informed and they weren't. Technically, they could go back and sue the previous owner of the house legally, but, you know, who wants to do that? And those people, when they were in the house, they weren't there long enough, they never ran into an issue. Everything was going okay at that point in time. So, you know, we're just kind of in a tough spot right now, and my husband and I are looking at retiring in a few years and selling this house. We don't need a house that size. Our kids are gone. And, but it would be a family that buys our house. And I don't, you know, where we're at, that's just not a good water system to supply a family, because you're going to have people taking multiple showers. You need to do laundry, and it just doesn't handle it. So we have an in-ground sprinkler system that I don't know why we put it in, because we've never been able to use the darn thing. And since we haven't been able to use it, it's sunk in the ground, so that's a $10,000 minimum loss for us. So anyway, and I don't know if there's, you know, if it's not township water, that's a viable solution, because I realize that, you know, I feel bad that our neighbors would have to incur any costs if they have a good well. I mean, that's not a happy situation for them, but I don't know if there's any way that the township would consider taking over this well system up there either. I know that that's probably not a very good likelihood, but it is something that I've, you know, I mean, I remember talking to Kurt LePage about this back in 2009. I mean, this isn't my first go-around at this, but I never remember anything being looked into as far as bringing water up there before. So thank you very much to Mr. Kangas and Mr. Bodinas for sitting down with us and actually taking this situation as a public health concern for us and moving forward with it, because they were wonderful. So thank you.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
information. We'll be seeing more about this in a future time.
We'll try not to drag our feet too much in the dirt on this. Obviously, they need answers pretty quickly, because all of them will need to know where they sit on a decision regarding extending a public utility in their neighborhood. So we'll keep it moving as quickly as we can.
And once they determine how many people are involved too, that'll be a big impact.
And just as a point here, this is not the first time someone has come to the township board wanting water to be run into a subdivision. So we do have some information as to how that was done.
So, one of the things that came out of our talks with Mr. Kangas was, he suggested that, he said, well, you know, the township can send out a letter to see who's interested in township water. He said, but it comes better if a neighbor talks to a neighbor, which we wholeheartedly agreed. So Kathy Saracen and myself, her husband Stuart, made up this little survey card, and Kathy and I went around to every house in the subdivision and talked to as many neighbors as we could to see if they were interested in at least finding out, not a commitment to say, yes, I want township water, because you can't make a commitment if you don't know what it's going to cost you. You have to have some facts. But would you be interested in finding out what the cost of township water would be? And one of the main issues that we heard time and time again, especially from the people in the back part of our cul-de-sac, or the subdivision on that back cul-de-sac, was, yeah, I'd like to know, because we don't have any fire hydrants, and we watched that house across the street burn 2 years ago. And yeah, I mean, just about, there was only one house back there that nobody was home, and we went there twice. But every other house back there said, yeah, we'd be interested in learning the cost, because they saw that fire. And, you know, that there weren't fire hydrants to hook up to. And it was, you know, it's hard for the fire department to come in there. And these aren't small homes back there that they're, you know, if something happens. But anyway, we did do survey cards, and we had over 50% of the neighbors who were interested in at least finding out what the cost would be. Not necessarily that they were going to sign up for township water, or you know what I mean, but that they were interested in finding out the cost, because we do have 2 new homes that are being built up there, and neighbors expressed concern as to, well, my pressure's not real great right now. What happens when they tap into the wells that are on their lots? You know, is that going to affect my water pressure next door? So there was concern about that as well. So when you mentioned how many people, I thought I'd let you know that we did do a neighborhood survey.
And one more point on that was, I was on the board, and I think it was 2008, I think Linda was there too, and we had the same situation in Grandview Circle. And what we did in that time was basically 50% of the landowners had to agree to get, you know, to sign, you know, to get the township water. And it was pretty contentious there for a while. There was neighbors that didn't talk to neighbors for a long time. However, 10 years later, I think most of the folks there have signed up or have gotten township water and are happy to have it. But it was contentious for a while there, and it was easy for the township board because it was just basically a vote of the people there that wanted it. And like I said, it was within the neighborhood, it was contentious for a while because not everyone needed the water.
Right.
And I think maybe in your situation might be a little bit different, because it sounds like some folks don't have it, you know, anyway, but not very good amount of it. And so that's kind of where we were back then, and that would be the way we would progress now in that sort of fashion, because we have a template already for it, basically. So.
Well, thank you for your time this evening.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. Ernie?
Now, John, you are moving forward to try and get some preliminary data. Is there any time frame that we can get from that to give us some idea what direction we should be going?
Looks like Lenny's back. He's been spearheading the conversation with the consultant. I don't know if they had a timeline as far as this preliminary opinion, but preliminary opinions can be put together pretty quick. They're just going to put a big contingency on it to make sure that the number's not too low. I don't know, Lenny, did you get any feedback on a time frame for that?
I have not, but I will contact him tomorrow and see where we're at.
Okay.
It reminds me of a couple years back when you're putting sewer and water in. Some people didn't want to, said they didn't, oh, I don't want my sewer hooked up in that. Like, my well is good, and my septic tank is good, but one at a time, they start failing, you know, and then they all sign up. So I don't want to be on the end waiting for water.
We don't need a public health crisis on our hands before we react. We need to
Exactly.
get this
You gotta
figured
get
out
started,
before it's
figure
too
it
late.
out.
Ernie?
Following up on Pete on the sewer, and when they put the sewer down Fair Avenue, I had just put in a whole new septic system 2 years or 3 years ahead of me. And I just paid for that, and they come down with the sewer, and being where the sewer was 200 feet off, you don't have a choice under state statutes and that. So I ended up biting the bullet again right away. So things like that do happen in that, and
But you were happy to do it.
my wife was very happy to do
All
it.
right, just check.
Okay, are we good? Okay, thank you. Consent agenda tonight, that consists of approval of work session minutes of October 14th, 2021, regular meeting minutes of October 19th. We have bills payable in the amount of $91,898.15. We have September's Sheriff's Department activity report, and I included the close-up report I thought was kind of interesting on the COVID effects from the U of M. We also have the 2040 master plan from Marquette County. You remember I brought that to you a few times, and now that's finalized. And we have draft minutes from the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority from October 20th, as well as their board packet of the 20th. We got everything in time for our packet. And the Roads Committee draft minutes of August 3rd, which were rather lengthy. So I need approval of those. Randy?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ernie?
Couple comments on, if you had, make sure you read the solid waste, then if you read through all their financial there, you're looking at the $1 million in there, again, I brought up before. So the dollars are there when you look at the financial statement that, and they're supposed to reimburse the communities on the recyclables, but I have no idea where it's at. I just look at their financial and that and see what's going on there. That. The other thing is, we've talked about the dark stores. If you look at the road committee, on that one paragraph in there as to where that's at and how much money that's been lost in that, it's very interesting. Something like this, again, we'd like to somehow get this out to the people. Keep it in front of them continually in that, so, that's it.
The board at our strategic work session did talk about getting the MTT information out, so I prepared a one page that will go on the back of the tax bills. And legal has it just to make sure the information's right, and I pulled it from the county's compilation of 2009 to 2020. So that's gonna go out in the tax bills. And then I thought, I had already talked to Andra about putting it on the back of our December calendar as well, so the public can see that. I have information, quite a bit of information for you for the next few meetings on updates. And if you remember, we were invited to that meeting on Friday. If any of you can't come, then get a question to me if you want for our legislators. Okay, then I need approval of the remainder of the agenda, but I have two changes. We will not have a closed session tonight, so we need to remove that. What was the other? You probably already have it in the packet. Randy had missed the assurance of organizational performance, so I did give you an updated copy at your place. So the original document that would have been listed doesn't have number 9 with the committee reports. So that should be part of the agenda.
The updated agenda does have that.
Right.
Online and
And
here.
it's online too?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one's good. But we need to take the closed session off, so,
So I'll move to approve the agenda with those changes.
Support?
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, first up for number 6 is our library report. And we have Tom with us tonight.
Good evening. I attended the October 19th meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Peter White Public Library. I was the TAC representative at that meeting, so I gave a little report on the Marquette Township. And I talked about the road improvements, the redistricting, which had just been decided the night before, I believe, and the Heritage Silos project. They were most interested in that. They thought that was pretty interesting. Most of the meeting was taken up by a special presentation given by Heather Steltenpohl. She manages she's the treasurer of the library endowments. To do that, they have a 501c3 organization that is completely separate from the library, which I didn't realize. And that allows them to take bigger donations and then spread them over 2 or more years, which they can't do through the library because of the way the city works. So that was formed back in 1997 for the capital campaign, but really got kicked into gear in 2015 when the dark store issues started to loom. They got $30,000 from the UP health system to kind of start the general endowment fund, and that has grown with other, that amount has grown. They haven't taken any money out of it and has gotten additional donations to it, so it's up to $445,000 now in that endowment fund. They have, again, this is a growth fund, they don't plan to use it. They also have, there's a bunch of sub-funds under there. The Allen Roberts Endowment Fund, which is based for youth programs, that's designated for that. The Holly and Rod Aldrich Fund, which is the newest one, just this year, $27,000 for technology. And then you have to have $25,000 to donate to start an endowment fund. They have 3 funds that are not really growth funds, but pass-through funds, but they can go over more than 1 year. One of which is the Friends of the Library. I don't know if you've ever been to the library, but you've seen they have a bookstore, a used bookstore right in the middle of the library. And it's entirely volunteer. They had $18,000 worth of books sold at $3 a book, which is pretty hard to do last year. They also were able to get $10,000 in their book sale this fall, and they have online sales of $10,000 last year too. So all in all, since 2006, they've contributed $100,000 to the library, so it's a lot of money. There's a garden fund, again, because the money comes into the fall and the summer, but they don't spend it till spring, it crosses the year. So that's about $7,000 a year that goes from that, and it's all volunteer as well. The Mining Journal digitization project, which I told you about last time, that is also being run this way because that's going to be over several years. That was started with $250,000 for 5 years, but they're going to need a lot more money to finish the project, so that's going to be an ongoing thing. And then the Ray and Peg Hervinen gives about $10,000 a year through the development fund, year after year. So they're in pretty good shape with that. They've got about, in all, a little over $500,000 in their endowment funds. And that was most of the meeting. The rest was just some policies and things that weren't terribly interesting. Any questions?
Anything? That sounds great. That's the nice information that we like, is exactly how they're doing, not just the money side of it, but, being in touch with what's happening.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of presenting something every time, so we get to hear it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The reductions and refunds for the tax tribunal to the library was $61,000 loss through last year. So if that makes you feel good. That's on the spreadsheet that I said will be coming out. All right, staff introduction. We don't have any staff introduction. We have the chief.
Pardon me?
I said we have the chief.
Yes, we do.
No, we do. We do have 2. We have two of our newest members of the department are here. I'll let them introduce themselves, and we'll start by seniority. And I guess, Nicole, you have Kelsey by a month. They've both only been here a couple of 3-4 months, 3 months. So Nicole, if you want to come up and introduce. Yeah, you got it.
Come on.
Just want to know who you are.
I'm Nicole Fawcett. I'm an EMT for the township, and I actually do work for Buildings and Grounds for the township as well. So,
You work where?
Buildings and Grounds.
Okay, okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We thank you.
And I'm Kelsey Hookey, and I'm an EMT, and I will be starting fire school in January, and I will be starting at MGH as well on Monday.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we're both very energetic, smart. Actually, they're both, if anything, if you're in the township on Saturday, I think they're working together. So,
All right.
But they're experienced, they know what they're doing, and they've been well-trained.
Have you
And
been nice to them?
I do try, don't ask them. They've got to go, now, don't ask them, but yeah, we try, we do try. It works out well.
I'm
Correct?
sure If they
Thank you,
If that's
yeah.
up, they'll know,
Yeah.
they'll know the wrath,
Oh,
right?
exactly, yep,
They've both been an asset.
yep, oh, definitely, yep.
That's why we want to meet your staff.
Yep.
We've got a lot of big people that work with us, and we need to know who you are. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
Oh, you're not gonna stay for the whole meeting?
No, probably not.
Bye-bye.
All right. Presentation from Lake Superior Community Partnership Director Sarah Lucas. Thank you for coming, Sarah.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm Sarah Lucas. I'm the new-ish CEO at the Lake Superior Community Partnership. I started back in late February, early March. Just a little bit of background as kind of an introduction, since I haven't met most of you before. I moved to Marquette about a year ago from Traverse City, where I worked in community and economic development at the regional level for the last 20 years as the community development director for the regional planning agency in Northwest Lower Michigan. So like the QPAD of Northwest Lower Michigan, Networks Northwest. I was a community development director there, worked with a lot of local governments and community organizations in my time there, and then started a housing nonprofit called Housing North, where I worked for the last couple years before moving up to Marquette. And then once I moved up here, I actually worked with the Western UP Planning and Development Region, putting together their post-COVID, I guess I shouldn't say post-COVID, because we're still in COVID, but their economic resiliency and recovery plan. It's an economic development strategy in response to the pandemic. So I was really, really excited to be able to continue my work in community and economic development at the Lake Superior Community Partnership and in Marquette, which is, like I said, I've lived here for about a year, but I've been a part-time resident, I guess you could say, for about 7 years. I was back and forth between Traverse City and Marquette for a long time. My husband had lived here for the last 20 years, has a house in Chocolate Township, and so I finally just moved up. But glad to be here, have been planning to be here for a long time, and I'm excited to be working in the community, especially after COVID, where we were all kind of locked in and it was hard to connect. So glad to be out in the community talking with everybody. My background, like I said, is very community oriented, did a lot of economic development, but really based in community development. And so that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming into this role with, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But really just kind of wanted to introduce myself and talk a little bit about the LSCP and where we're looking to in the years ahead. I think you're all familiar with the LSCP.
Push hard on it. Push
Okay,
hard on
I
it.
wasn't sure if I was pointing it in the right direction.
If not, I can move it.
You want to, yeah, it doesn't seem to be.
All right, let me try here. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe you can move it.
And maybe it's not on, maybe I'm not pushing the right button. Anyway, we'll try it again next time. Anyway, I'm sure you're all familiar with the LSCP. It's been around for about 25 years, and I'm only the second CEO. But we have a lot of history here and have really provided a lot of services over the years to creating a vibrant and thriving regional economy. That's been our mission over the years. And we do that by providing services to businesses and the community. We do a lot of business attraction and retention activities, so we support both new and existing businesses. We connect them to resources. We connect them to different partners. We promote local businesses. And in that promotion work is, that's where you see we actually do a lot of marketing. Net marketing can look like networking events. We actually put on a lot of events for businesses. We do a lot of email type promotion, and we provide a lot of networking services. We also do provide data support for businesses, do a lot of economic impact studies, demographic analysis, and other reports to kind of show where the community is and where it's headed for businesses that are trying to make decisions about how to grow. And then we also provide a lot of advocacy, both on behalf of businesses and on behalf of the community. We work really closely with legislators and local governments like yourself to communicate our business needs and economic needs in Marquette County to decision makers. But beyond that, we're also just a more generally speaking, a community partner, and we provide backbone support to a lot of different community organizations. So we do, back-end type work for different nonprofits, and help to bring people together around specific community issues. And recently, housing has been one of those big community issues that we've been trying to help organize around. So I think I don't know if it was me or you, but that's what we've done over the years, and we'll continue to do that. But because we have new leadership for the first time at LSCP, and because we have so much change in our economy and our world right now, we thought it made sense this year to take a step back and look at what we were doing, how we were doing it, how we were connecting with the community, and put together a new strategic plan. So we did that strategic plan over the summer and early fall with a lot of input from stakeholders. We put out a survey to all of our members. We had some interviews, we had some focus groups, we had some board discussions, and had, I think, it was a really great experience in terms of identifying, where our value is, where we can improve, and what we should look to in the future. We really focused on, in terms of our strategies that we developed, we really focused on a couple different areas. One was how we work with the community, how we communicate with them, how we connect with them, how we collaborate with them. And one is our governance and our organizational capacity, and making sure that how we're structured and what we provide is being responsive to what the community needs. So over the next year or so, we'll be looking at what we can do in terms of capacity with our staff and how we're structured as a board and an organization to make sure that we're connecting and responding to the community. I'll talk a little bit more about our collaboration in just a second, but I do want to say that we talked a lot about how we communicate and how we're messaging our value, and we'll be talking more about that and making sure that we're communicating to the community in a way that everyone understands what the value of economic development is. And that's it's not always a simple thing to explain. I think everyone has a slightly different definition of what economic development is. And so we really want to try to clarify what it is that the LSCP does and what we offer so that people understand our value. So I will give it a shot here. Okay, it's working. So like I said, one of the big focus areas for us was collaboration and connection. And that's because we understand that everything we do, we really need to do in partnership with the rest of the community. And so we're really looking closely at our partnerships with different organizations, with different local governments, with other organizations to make sure that we're providing services that are aligned with other organizations. One thing that I have heard a lot since I started is there are so many economic development organizations. Is it duplicative? And we don't think so. We work in partnership with all those other economic development organizations. Everyone has kind of their own niche, and we want to make sure that what we're providing aligns with what other economic development organizations are providing so that we have a full spectrum of economic development services in our region. So we're really being mindful of how we partner with those organizations and what we provide in respect to what they provide, if that makes sense. But we also want to make sure that we're working more closely than ever with decision makers and with the community in order to be responsive to what it is that they need. I think that that's really the big takeaway in a lot of our discussions is we have the ability to respond to some of these bigger issues that our community is experiencing right now as we kind of try to recover from the pandemic, and how can we offer those services to the community most effectively. So those partnerships are really going to be the foundation of everything that we do, and we'll be continuing to double down on that in the future. One of those areas is local government relationships. again, with economic development, it's really important to have those local government connections. We see local governments as being a key partner in economic development, and so we have always provided services to local government. We have had partnerships with local government, and that's another thing that we really want to kind of double down and look at how we're working with local government, what kind of services we can provide that best meet their needs. One of the ways that we're doing this right now, maybe differently or sort of a new approach than LSCP has done in the past, is trying to bring local units of government together around some of those bigger issues. And an example is the Intergovernmental Housing Task Force, which we kind of kicked off in, I think, July this summer, brought local governments together to talk about the housing issues that everyone is experiencing and what local governments can bring to the table on that issue. There was a lot of interest in continuing those intergovernmental conversations, and so we're continuing to convene that group. At our last meeting, there was a lot of interest in sort of formalizing it so that we're a more official group that has a unified voice when we talk to the state about what resources are available for housing, what kinds of actions we're taking, what kinds of supports we need. So we put together a resolution, which I'd be happy to talk with you more about, for local governments to participate in an official way in that housing task force. Lynn has been a part of those conversations, and John and Jason, and actually we'll be having an event December 8th and 9th that Jason will be speaking on a panel talking about Marquette Township's approach to some of these housing questions. So I think Marquette Township has really been at the table, and we really appreciate your participation in those conversations. I don't want to go on a tangent on housing, but that being my background, it's probably kind of inevitable that I will. But when we talk about housing, everyone wants to know what local governments are doing. And I think there's a very clear recognition that it's not just one unit of government that is responsible for addressing some of the issues around housing. We're really talking about a regional issue, a statewide issue, a national issue. And so we really need to think about how we're leveraging our local resources in alignment with our neighboring units of government to have the greatest impact. So we're really happy about this intergovernmental approach, and really happy to be supporting that with coordinating that group and hosting events. So that's one example, but again, we provide other services similar to what we provide to businesses. We do a lot of economic development data and research and analysis, and then we also provide some capacity building services. So if there's a special project with an economic development focus, our staff has the capacity to provide additional staff support to communities to do that. And then, of course, we're also the clear connection to businesses in the community. So we're sort of a liaison or a link in the chain for business needs to decision makers, and we'll continue to provide that service. So that's really all. It was just a quick introduction. I'm happy to talk with you more on any issues that you might be interested in, but wanted to kind of just say hello and make myself available, and thank you for having me.
Thanks. Who has questions? I know some people do. Come on. Well, some of the discussion we've had, I did get on your website and tried to figure out when we were doing our strategic planning, what our membership dues would be if the township joined. It was not real clear.
I can help you with that. There's different levels of it.
Yep.
So depending on what you need, I think it starts at around $300 and can go up from there.
Okay. That's kind of what it said on the website, but I didn't know if it'd be different for businesses that's the number of employees we'd have. So if we had, how would it go up if we have different
if you have different, if you have different needs, I guess it can be structured in different ways. And I'll maybe we can talk more specifically about what you're looking for. But one of the things that we do with local governments is like we have actual contracts with local governments so that we can be clear about what the services are that are being provided to the unit of government. So that might be something to talk about too, just depending on what exactly you're looking for support with.
Is there, short of the website, is there something, do you have a pamphlet or something?
Yes,
that
yep.
would give us options?
Yes.
Of what to ask for, or how we think we could be a partner?
Yes, absolutely. I'll get you that
Would help.
information, and we'd be happy to meet with you one-on-one too, and talk more about each of those options and see if there's other ways we might be able to help you too.
I think that was, I don't know that any of the boards that I've been on since 2008, if anyone has made a presentation requesting our membership, it's possible, and I just didn't know, but I think the first question would be, what can you do for us? You know, so that, I think that's where we'd have to start, to see what benefit it would be, because it isn't just us as an organization, we're representing all of our taxpayers, so.
Right.
If it's a benefit to them.
Yes. Well, I'm going to say yes. I mean, that's probably not a surprise to you, but to give you an example, maybe a few ideas of how you might be able to think about it is, we do provide support with events. So if you want to have bigger events to, have those conversations with your business community or the public, we can work with you on that. That's one thing that we do with other units of government pretty regularly. That's maybe one end of the spectrum. We also work with some units of government on very specific projects. So, for example, we have a contract with a county, and that's one of the ways that we're involved in some of these housing discussions is to provide some support for them as they look for some answers around housing. We're also talking with the city of Ishpeming about how we might be able to help them specifically with communication needs and with some of their priorities around neighborhood improvement activities. But those are special projects that, like I said, kind of go into a contract. So those are on one end of the spectrum. Maybe it's event coordination on the other. Maybe it's a special economic development activity. There are, there's potential, for anything in between there, economic development, research and reports for businesses, promotional support for some of the events that you have or some of the communications needs that you have. So it's kind of, the sky is the limit. And I'd be interested in hearing more about, what some of your priorities are and how we might be able to respond to those.
So you could be an additional voice as a liaison with Lansing? Then too?
Absolutely, yes. That's a great example that I was going to mention and I didn't. But we do have local governments that are members, like of the ambassadors, and we work with the Marquette County ambassadors as an example. But beyond that, we can be a more direct line to some of our decision makers on behalf of the township.
So how much of, you mentioned the housing, I don't know what your term was, the group, the task force?
Yes.
How much of what you do can we participate in without being a member?
We're not going to draw a line on that one. That one, the housing task force is really, as I mentioned, we're working with the county. We want to make sure that anyone who wants to participate in the housing task force can participate. We think it's really important to have all the units of government at the table on that, and so you don't have to be a member to participate in that. We just appreciate you being part of the discussion.
Anybody? Pete?
I hesitate in asking you this, but it's been bothering me for a long, long time. All right? When we have ribbon cutting
Yes.
in our township, and you don't invite any supervisor or the manager, can you explain why? Coming from the sales background, that's not a good selling point.
I can explain why. Cannot. I didn't know that.
And if you don't want to say something, that's
Yes.
fine.
No, I simply don't have an answer for you, but that's something that we can definitely change. I think it makes sense, absolutely, to have you there, and we'll be sure to include you in the future.
Because the township works from the people, the business from the ground up,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden they open, and it's sort of like you sneak in there and you cut the ribbon. We don't have to cut the ribbon, but I think we should be representative no matter what township or where it is. I don't think you should exclude them in that.
I agree with you.
All right.
I
It's nice to
appreciate.
know I'm perfect, that's all.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, and it's something that's easy to fix, I think.
Yeah, it just don't seem right, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
we've
Thank
talked
you.
about it before. I just assumed that a business would approach you or you would approach the business. And as that business developed or turned over, you know, built a new one, that you'd pick up a partner and they would be a partner and then you'd do the open house for them or ribbon cutting or whatever it was. And not that it was intentional by any means, it just flowed that way. And most people don't think to ask their municipality if there's something that they could do. So we thought that we should educate our business owners too.
Yes.
That we are willing to, like the Outpost when they opened.
Well, I think that that's probably exactly what happens, is it's just sort of an organic, the groups are usually pretty small. So it's likely just, you know, who's top of mind in terms of, you know, a lot of times it's mostly staff that are there. But we can certainly add that to our list and make that suggestion. I think it makes sense.
I always felt that we should kind of, well, if they call us, sometimes they'll do two. You know, they'll do one with you, they'll do one with the TV6 or something.
Yeah.
Then they call us or whatever. None of that hurts. The more the better for,
Oh, I
for new
agree.
businesses.
Yeah, completely. But it'd be great to have you there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Linda,
Yes.
so I know that one of the things that I've used is the ability to email all the people.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how that's so
Yes.
valuable?
Yes, it is. I think that some of the best advertising is viral advertising, and that's essentially what we do with promotions. We have a huge list of other businesses, other members, units of government, and members can essentially provide content, and we put that into an email form and send it out to everybody on the list. It has a really big reach. So it is a really valuable service, and we see a lot of response from that. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
And
I just wanted to elaborate a little bit, I guess, on what Pete was talking about. When we see other units of government at our ribbon cutting ceremonies in our township, that's kind of a little bit of a slap in the face to us too.
yes,
So,
I understand. I apologize that I'm not more familiar with that. And
well, you haven't been here
it's
that
yeah.
long, so I mean, it's
but-
just
yeah.
something we would like to work on and get resolved, and so.
Yes, and I think it is an easy thing to fix.
Good.
Yeah.
Somebody let out the elephant in the room, apparently.
Well, it just
We've been talking
bothers me.
about it for a long time.
Yeah, it's been working on us for a long time in
Yeah.
a lot of areas, and I don't think it's good for that, but
Well,
if it left the impression on me and a lot of them here, so you know it bothered, you know.
Yeah, well, I sincerely appreciate any direct feedback like that. We can't fix it if we don't know that it's a problem. And so
Correct.
one of the reasons I want to be here tonight is just to let you know the lines of communication are open, and we want to hear what you need and what you're interested in and how we can help. And so that's a good place to start, I think.
I think the session that we've just had is a good beginning. And both sides are willing to make it work if we can find the fit. And I think there's a willingness here.
Yes,
I think that's healthy.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes.
coming.
Yes, thank you for
Appreciate-
having me here.
Appreciate you coming.
Yes.
Well, let me know if you want to get together. John and I can sit and visit.
Yes, that'd be great. I'll be in touch with you, and we'll find a time sometime soon.
Okay.
But thanks
Great.
again. It was nice to meet you
Appreciate
all,
you
and
coming.
I look
Thank
forward
you.
to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome to.
Okay, next up, I just wanted to discuss a little bit, just because you've gotten a lot of the upset information and statistics that were asked for. Some of them are not exactly, maybe in the format you were looking for, but I just wanted to, we don't have to talk about it even, unless you have something to mention, but I would like to ask Lieutenant Tim if he'd be willing to meet with us, you know, twice a year, once a year, quarterly, whatever his availability is. He would have been here tonight, but he's in Lansing doing some training. So I just thought it was very telling And Randy did end up, he was able to put in the annual reports, so I
Thank you.
told him to make sure we get 2021 when that's done. That's something they have to do for the state. It was very good. Any comments or anything I need to take to Tim? Linda?
I would just encourage the residents who are listening tonight to actually review that information. I think it's interesting and valuable for our community. So,
Marquette is
so yeah, review it.
part of their hard work.
Yeah, it's all in the packet. The 19 and 20 reports are there, so that's why the packet was extremely longer, but I think it's valuable information for the residents.
And then it's a matter of record too, so anybody can look at it. All right. Just a few things I want to share with you on community linkage before we talk to our other gentleman that's here. I'll go quick. Thank you for your patience. We didn't know all these people were going to come either tonight. I did go to the Outpost open house on Saturday for their ribbon cutting.
We saw you on TV.
I was the only one there. Okay, that's all right. I was glad to be there. Chris thanked me 100 times on the news. He had he must have had maybe TV 6 and TV 10, I'm not sure, but he had 2 different camera people. He thanked the township for all of our work, our staff. He said how great we were, the planning department. He mentioned everybody. I don't know how much of that got on the air, but, and then he thanked me. We talked for a long, long time. So anyway, that was Saturday, that he was really happy with their event, the way it worked out. And I wanted to do a thank you for Susan Radwan to do our strategic planning last week. I thought she got a lot of it done in just the 8 hours or 9 that we were together. She's working on, she would have had something to us the next day, and I said, no, we're not gonna have time to get it on this packet, so wait till the next meeting. So she's working on that now, and then she's willing to go over that with us, or in January, or whatever else we need as a follow-up. I just wanted to mention the League of Women Voters editorial. I don't know if anybody saw it. If you remember, Clerk Rattari mentioned something about the apportionment meeting. We were involved with that, and the districting that happens because of the census change. And the editorial was very well written, and I'm sorry I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. I think I threw the newspaper out. But it did comment that we were the ones that were kind of left out, and they reviewed their motion and decided to have a second meeting, and, you know, I told you about that. But it was a very nice article. It didn't beat up on the county too much or those representatives, but she did say that they kind of did a faux pas, and they kind of fixed it, so. Our clerk's happy, so that's a good thing.
On the announcements, Lynn, I might be able to bring up a map and show the residents where the
There
new
you go.
district is, because I do have that.
Good idea. Okay. I did do the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Tour last week with the County Township Association meeting. That was just unbelievable. I do have some pictures, and I'm gonna show you those next time. It was very, very insightful. Deputy Kangas was there, and he did a drone demonstration in the parking lot, so that was pretty interesting. He answered a bunch of questions for the group that was there, the County Township Association group that was there. So we were glad of that. They're struggling big time, the police force. And the last thing is a joint meeting with Marquette Township Business Association. I got an email today. They would like to do it on 11/16, which is the day of our next meeting. November 16th, Tuesday at noon. And I said I thought there might be one person hunting, but I wasn't sure who all would be available. So before I commit, I want to make sure that everybody could be there at noon, or at least a good majority.
Yeah, I can be there that day.
They buy us lunch too. We agreed that
Oh,
that's-
that makes it.
Sorry.
Shall I say yes to her?
Yeah, I can
Is that
be
gonna
there.
work okay?
I won't be there.
Okay.
Get a poll and see, Dan will be.
Maybe they can email you if they can come.
Pete, can you be there?
I don't know, I've got a colonoscopy in the morning, so.
No. that would be no.
Not mine, not me, my daughter.
Oh, okay. More information than I needed.
What time is that, Lynn?
Yes or no would have been good. Noon. Dan, you're good?
I most likely will not be here.
Okay. John?
You can zoom in.
Well, probably not where I'm gonna be, no.
John, you think you can make it?
It's not clear.
Okay.
16th at noon.
At noon.
I know, I got it. I wrote it down, but
Okay.
it's not
Ernie, are
clear.
you good?
I'm good.
Okay, I'll email her back.
Where's it gonna be, Lynn?
Right here. Yep, we'll do it in the community room. As far as I can tell, there's nothing else scheduled, but I'll verify on that tomorrow. Okay, that's all I needed to share with you. Now, we can talk to our 906 Adventure Team gentlemen.
But she's not gonna ask me any more questions.
There was a letter in your packet. You saw that 906 has made the 2% request of the township as a pass-through. Part of the state's agreement with the tribes is that they do share some of their casino money with local municipalities. And while the club itself isn't exactly stationed in Marquette Township, we know for a fact that there are a lot of township and city kids that are involved with it. And I would really like you to explain it too, besides just, talking about the letter. Tell us what your group does, because I know what it does.
Sure.
And how impactful it is, but the board and the public who might be listening too. So, take it
I
away.
can give a quick, I'll be conscious of your time. So
That's
I'll be
okay.
quick. I'm Todd Poquette. I'm the Director of Adventure for the 906 Adventure Team. We founded back in 2014, and essentially the mission is to empower people to discover the best version of themselves through outdoor adventure. The tool that we use to do this is a bicycle. So we currently work with children from the ages of 5 to 17. In Marquette County, we're working with a ballpark this year of about 230 kids. We started with 5. I guess I'll step back and I'll say we started with 5 kids in 14. Globally now, or collectively, we're over 500. So there's 230 here. We are in Delta County working with 50 kids down there. We are in Gogeeba County working with 50 kids over there. And we're actually in Wisconsin, in Eau Claire, working with 100 kids there. We're going into 3 more communities next year. And that's really what prompted us to talk to the Gaming Commission, because somebody in Escanaba who's aware of our organization, which is a 501c3, said that we should look into he referred to it as 2% money. And we've never gone down that road before, essentially because we were brought to understand we needed municipality to act as a pass-through. So we hadn't gone down this path, and we're still learning as we're going through it. This is step 1. They said you need a municipality on board, so here I am. But yeah, we're working with 500 kids. Next year it'll probably be closer to 700. We train this year 250 volunteers across 2 states. By next year it'll be probably 300. It's a growing organization that reaches out to kids and families, and really what we're doing through the program is activating the community. Because as these kids become more familiar and comfortable within the community, they develop a sense of independence, familiarity with the trails, familiarity with landmarks and where they are. And actually after our bike program, a lot of times, the kids are actually taking their parents out on bike rides and showing them where the trails go. And that leads to the family being more engaged, parents buying bikes. Earlier there was a lady here talking about public health. This program really directly is impacting public health in a positive way by keeping people outside and moving. So that's where we're hoping to get your support to act as a pass-through. We don't know how much we're going to request yet, because they said they didn't want to get into any further details until we had somebody's support. The money that we will request will be to purchase the equipment that will allow for basically the infrastructure we need to grow. The equipment we purchase will be used here in Marquette County for this program, and then that'll allow us to push some equipment into other communities. That's the short story.
So this isn't just, a bike riding group that gets together occasionally, and John can speak to it too, because he's involved. My grandson's involved, because my husband's involved. He's one of the coaches, but this is a different organization. They are really promoting the person, the child, and the interaction, and you can see how they blossom. You can see the child change just in the summer that he was doing it and my grandson's 8. So, this isn't, I have a personal stake in this. I think this is great. I've made contributions and stuff, and my husband's out there working on them with them. But it does benefit youth, period. It's something for them to do. They get to be with their peers. They get to meet new kids. It's really different. It's not, when I've heard about it, I thought, well, a bunch of kids get on a bike and they go around the woods, big deal, it's just a ride. It's not. And they have a philosophy and they have structure. And I mean, there's a lot, even to be a coach, there's a lot involved to learn. You have to take tests and stuff. So it's a valuable organization. Like I say, it's not just a bunch of kids riding around in the trails.
I could add something on that,
Yeah.
just to touch on it, because I think that's important. Sometimes I think a bicycle is underappreciated for the potential that it holds for teaching a kid more about him or herself. The bike's a vehicle that they could take into the community. We focus a lot on structure. So if you roll into base camp, which is where we gather everybody on a Monday or a Thursday, there's 200 people, or, well, no, I'm gonna check that. There's, 230 people between kids, coaches. While the parents are there, it's probably touching close to 300. And you would assume, maybe, picturing 100 and some kids on bikes and then coaches, you'd picture chaos. Well, rule number 1 is this needs to be controlled. We don't have a lot of rules, but the rules that we have they're not negotiable. So as soon as you come from the parking lot with your mom and dad, who has to walk you to the station, they can't just ride away from mom and dad, they have to be walked over. When they get into the base camp perimeter, they have to get off the bike. They walk their bikes through base camp. It's all very disciplined. You're not gonna roll up and see 100 kids doing wheelies, through Tourist Park. And that's an important message from us, because frankly, I think that we should all answer to somebody beyond ourselves. And this kind of starts to set a precedent for kids to understand, like, okay, I'm gonna go to bike club tonight for 2 hours, I don't wheelie. I'm going to learn a different set of rules and etiquette when I'm in public and I'm around other people. Like, you can go wheelie the other 164 hours of the week. I'm fine with that. But we're trying to use our interaction with the kids to have a positive impact where they're away from their parents and they're interacting with other adults in the community. And it's a good learning process for them. Because when they leave mom and dad, that's a growth opportunity. So it is very much a different program. It's not a head-to-head thing. We don't pit kids head-to-head. It's actually potentially pitted the other way, where I'm gonna show up, and the only person I'm competing against tonight as a child on my bike is against myself and what I did last week, and just to get better.
Want to share?
I guess I could tell you that I probably wouldn't know this guy if it wasn't for this organization. It's how we met. And it was through one of the side ventures that he does to keep himself busy and help raise funds on his own for the organization, one of his events. He came to me as an employee at the city of Ishpeming saying, I need some help. And I didn't really know him yet, so I didn't know if I could trust the guy. Just to give you perspective, he asked me to help coach the race team this year. That was June through a couple of weeks ago. Left me on my own. We didn't fail, fortunately, but probably because he knew that I wasn't going to let him down. If you haven't figured out yet, I'm pretty biased about this organization. It's an organization that both of my boys participate in every year, and they will until they graduate high school, because it's their passion, probably because they learned that passion from me. In a very selfish way, I'm very happy that they chose the same sport that I love to do. So beyond that, I guess I didn't know that Marquette Township had historically requested 2% funds from KBIC. Having talked to Dan last Friday, it does sound like we do regularly, but we haven't recently. And obviously with COVID, they probably didn't have a whole lot of 2% funds to spread around anyway. But either way, if I were to pick an organization to request my employer to be a pass-through municipality for, it'd be the first one I would pick.
Any questions for Todd? Or Randy?
Not a question. I'll move to agree for Marquette Township to be the pass-through agency for 2% monies from KBIC for the 906 Adventure Team.
Support.
Anything else, Ernie?
We're approving this, but do we not have to, at some time in the future, something will come back to us again when you get the dollars to pass that through officially? That this just starts the ball rolling at this point in time.
Well, yeah, the way it would go is if they requested, for example, like $10,000 and they get accepted, we would accept it and then we'd disperse it, but it'd be through a motion of the board so the audit would be clear. Correct, Roger? Something like
Correct.
that? Yeah.
You've done this in the past.
We get the check and then we deposit it and we write it back to them. And then you see all of that, Linda?
Yeah, so this does not allow us to request more. This is just one request. So Dan, we could still request money for something else, or?
Well, actually, we are not they would request it of
Correct.
the.
So someone else we could be a pass-through for as well. The interesting part about the bike club is it fits in with our strategic plan for recreation. So I would encourage 906 to look at what we have here to use as well.
Absolutely. We've
yeah.
used your facility, actually, pre-COVID, we did a leadership summit, and we held it here, which was actually well-received. We had 100 people from Gogebic, Delta, and Marquette come together here and actually have a leadership summit.
And we have some great trails.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I've
we
been on.
are a stop.
John?
Go ahead, Pete.
Some of these manufacturing, John knows what I'm talking about. Do they ever think about safety for kids on bikes? I mean, there's nothing on the bike that you can insert a light or something like that, or, you know, I just think there's so many kids out there with the fat bikes, the fat tires and everything else. They're out at night.
Yeah.
You can't see them. That bothers me.
They're not just
See,
kids. We've
yeah,
seen 'em.
well, I mean, it's adults too.
Yeah.
You know, again, I think sometimes that a bicycle is just underappreciated and taken as an afterthought, you know, like almost as though it's a toy, and it really isn't a toy, although some may treat it that way. There's a lot of education that needs to be done. I mean, one of the things that, and John can attest to this, that we are no negotiation on is helmets. You know, when the kids come in, before we even do a ride, we look at all the helmets. They have to have helmets. They have to fit properly. And my rule to the kids is, if you're on your bike, if you're next to your bike, if you're touching your bike, if you're looking at your bike, if you're thinking about your bike, your helmet has to be on your head. And they need more adults to share that message, because frankly, part of the problem is adults will downplay the importance of a helmet. They'll be like, don't worry about it, it's all good. I mean, in the Order Shore, I was behind a kid, this is 6 years ago, and I watched him ride into the curb, go over the bars, and he landed directly on his head, but he had a helmet on. And I went back to the finish line, because it was right on the way to the finish, and I went over to his parents, and I said, he had a pretty major incident, you know, he landed on his head, but he had a helmet on. It was Bob Horn, actually, from Muskegon. That's how I met him. And he was okay, but if he hadn't had a helmet on, he probably wasn't. So I think we're trying to do that through Bike Club, sharing the importance of proper bike safety and proper equipment. But it's an uphill battle.
Because like you said, the parents don't follow. How many times do you see the parents riding around without a helmet?
Yeah.
And then kids do. So, I mean, they're still setting a bad example.
You know,
Does everybody have enough money for helmets?
We provide helmets if the kids don't have helmets. So we do have some on board. We've got some excess equipment. We have extra bikes for kids who don't have a bike. The good news is, I guess, that the bikes they used to show up with were suspect. the quality of the bike now that kids are showing up with is improving every year, so that's a good sign. I don't think the issue is so much with the kids at Bike Club, though. I think it's the kids outside of Bike Club. That's where, how do we get to them and provide the education to them and their mentors or their parents?
Interesting, this discussion. Bike shops are required by law to sell the bike with reflectors on it. What's the first thing everyone does?
Take them off.
Take them off.
So there's your safety visibility feature, but everyone takes them off because
What's not cool to have reflectors or what?
I use lights when I ride at night, but for other people, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good education. This
Yeah.
is going out to the public.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. Okay, we have a motion in place. Are we good?
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time tonight.
So when you, so when you get your monies, that you know, if you do get a commitment of monies, just let us know, and then we can deal with that.
We'll reach out to them tomorrow and see where we go here.
Okay,
We'll be in touch with you.
okay, very good.
Good. Thanks. Thanks for waiting too.
No, it's been great.
All right. Consider ordering upfitting equipment for 2022 pickup truck fire department.
Falls to
You
the
too.
You
chief.
too, thanks.
You're up?
Okay, Dan, yep, yes.
In case you had any questions,
Oh.
better stick around.
This is your, you said that you were gonna get, we were gonna get hit up again. right?
Yep.
This is what you were talking
Yep.
about.
And I guess I'm just looking for approval. Like I said, it is budgeted for and it is needed. Our stuff's getting old. If we're gonna, you know, the only thing we hesitated a little bit about was the radio, but it's 22 years old. We're starting to have some issues with it, but it's budgeted for, we need to replace it, and this way we have a spare if one of our other ones go down.
Ernie, do you have a question?
Is this take care of everything that you need at this
No,
point?
I know.
I
A
know
little
that.
more, a little, I know, I do understand where you're, believe me, I do too. I wish it was, I wish I could say yes. No, we're still gonna need to get it lettered and striped,
Okay.
and they could be missing, they shouldn't be, but, and I did not speak with them, a couple of minor things, like an install of we're debating on if we're gonna install a cellular phone in the truck or not. Most people carry them with them, but sometimes on fire, I know I don't at night. You know, I don't think to grab my phone. So it is nice to have that truck phone, and we were debating on whether or not we were gonna have that. It's just an installation charges I would be looking at. We'd keep the same phone. So, and I think after, when they're doing everything else, it wouldn't be that much, but we do have to still get it lettered yet.
I'll make the motion to approve for the fire department to order all necessary upfitting equipment through the Econ Systems Marquette for the 2022 Silverado pickup truck.
Support.
More questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too.
You can stay.
He's had enough. Consider agreement for limited professional services from UPEA.
That's Mr.
Must be
Lenny.
Lenny's, hey?
Yes.
You've got volume.
Okay, so this is basically for that NPS project that we have ongoing. We had sent out an RFQ to some different firms. One respectfully declined, one asked for a extension on the deadline we could not provide, and one came back to us with the proposal, and that was PEA. So everything looked good, and potential been going forward with acquiring their services. We have it's a time and materials not to exceed $92,800. That's actually what was built into the initial grant application for engineering. And then also the terms of service will be basically set forth in the grant application.
Well, move to approve the presented UPEA agreement for the provision of limited professional services of time and materials with a not-exceed price of $92,800 and authorize the township supervisor to sign pending legal review.
Support.
Okay, questions? Roger?
I've reviewed, and I had thought I sent a written response on that, and I don't think it made it out because we've had a staff change. There's a brief revision on page 2 that will need to strike the indemnity language because that's an unlawful provision for a municipal entity such as a township to have in a contract. This has come up. I've written many opinions on that over the years, and that shouldn't be an issue, and I will get that out tomorrow morning, exactly what the revision is.
Okay. Then let me know when it needs to be signed, whoever has it. Bernie?
Just have a question on the reimbursement. At what point in time do I apply for the reimbursement and that? And how long will it take to get back to us?
Well, whenever something is spent, I have to fill out quarterly reports and then apply for the reimbursements. So I'm not exactly sure how long they take to get back. I think they are within a few months, but I'm not 100% positive.
We'll have to pay this up front then we'll get reimbursed.
Yeah.
Yeah, stormwater.
Yes.
I think he's taken out of stormwater. Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I think you're good. Now you can go get a beer. Thanks, Lenny. Okay, consider board and committee raises for fiscal year 2022. Go ahead, Randy. This is kind of your baby.
Okay, so in year 2020, at our budget session, the township board felt rather than increasing salaries every few years with large increases, we would take a rather modest 2.5% increase every year, unless that was changed by future boards, and that was our philosophy at the time. And I'm just following through with what we decided there. And you can see the budget impact is very minimal. It's $1,056 for fiscal year 2022. So I'd recommend that we approve that motion.
I'll support it.
Okay. Discussion? Questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Consider resolution of salary for the township supervisor for fiscal year 2022. We are required to do these in this manner, by the way.
And basically, Lynn, now that we've approved our philosophy of increasing the wage for next year for the positions, you're absolutely right. Now the resolutions of salary have to move forward to be appropriate.
John, go ahead.
Resolution for the salary for the township supervisor for fiscal year 2022. I make a motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support. Any comments? Questions? Okay, you want to do a roll call?
Yes, so it's trustee Marks,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue, trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay, next up is to consider resolution for the township clerk.
I move to concur with the resolution approving the salary for the township clerk for the fiscal year 2022. So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any comments, questions? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
No.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Next up is consider resolution for the salary of the township treasurer for fiscal year 2022.
I'll move to approve the resolution of the salary of the township treasurer for fiscal year 2022.
Support.
Comments? Suggestions? Questions? No? Okay, go ahead.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
No.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Durant?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay, consider resolution of salary for the township trustees for fiscal year 2022.
And I'll approve that, the township trustee salaries for 2022.
Support.
Questions? Comments? Okay, go ahead.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
No.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes.
Trustee Marks?
Can I pass?
No?
Yes.
Supervisor Durant?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay, thank you. Committee updates. What do we have for planning, Miss Linda?
The Planning Commission met on October 27th, 2021. Just to note that we had 12 public members in attendance, which was great. We did do set special use permit public hearing was passed, and that's at 354 County Road 550 in Marquette Township. We did a site review on a proposed construction of a True North Credit Union. We also did the final planned unit development application for the Heritage Silos, and that passed. And we did set a special use public hearing request for a short-term rental, and that is at 170 Eagles Nest Road in Marquette Township. And that was set for December 8th. We did discuss the short-term rentals, and we'll look at the number that are in Marquette Township at our next Planning Commission meeting. Any questions?
I have one question. Mike Springer cannot get into that. He called me, he couldn't get into the watch of the meeting.
I don't know about that.
I don't think they're Zooming.
I don't think we Zoom.
Because I tried to.
Yeah.
Why
I think
don't we
it's
Zoom?
taped. I don't think I have no idea. We'll have to ask Jason that.
We can until the end of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, because of the county, but
I think
I don't
They
think-
can listen
all
to
our
it.
meetings should,
They will be posted, the recording will be posted online, but the meetings are not Zoomed right now.
he just asked a question, because he follows it and he'd like to see it, you know.
Yeah, I've tried a couple times.
Especially planning and something like that should be on there, so they could do it.
Yeah, I did mention to John that we should do one or the other and not just have,
Well, and again, the problem with this room is we're, again, we're doing through technology upgrades. We can get it, we're getting by right now with different equipment, but we're not ideally set up for Zoom, because we should be able to Zoom right through our regular camera and microphones, and we're doing it on a separate system right now.
so if we don't have somebody doing the camera, we really can't do Zoom. Or you'd have to be here.
Well, someone,
Run it.
yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
it's
I
a
mean-
technology.
But like I said, the recordings will be online. It's
Yeah,
just a matter
We
of,
just can't
That's-
participate.
if, it
That'd be good enough.
well, and if, you know, the meetings are open and they, you know, we can't,
You're more than welcome.
yeah, we can't accommodate everyone if they can't be here, because a lot of municipalities right now aren't even offering Zoom, so. I'm basically doing it now for some of our residents and for some of our staff that don't want to come in. It's just another layer of technology that we have to go through, which we don't have to really, but it's more convenience than necessity, in my opinion, right now, so.
Yep.
So in the past, the planning commission has not Zoomed. Oh, yeah.
In fact, they weren't even recording their meetings. I told Randy back in the day, Gerard, that people need to know that, you know, they need to be able to know what's going on, so.
Well, they recorded them and did minutes as they're required, but no, they didn't
Yeah,
post it
they didn't
online.
post it.
Yeah, so we've moved that direction.
Well, I'll go back even further than that, it was just minutes. There was really no recording at that point, back in the 90s and that. I was on the planning commission. The minutes were
Sure. Well, technology's changing. Who knows? Maybe Zoom will be offered all the time as we go forward.
Yeah, that recommendation to upgrade the technology in this room will have to happen.
So roads, you met tonight.
Yeah, we
You
have a
want to
new
share?
member. Her name is Karen Blake. Very encouraging. She's going to be a great asset to the road committee. And so we're looking, we'll discuss about roadside, street lighting and clear. We had roadside update, street lighting and clear sight intersections we're talking about, and then how do we plan for it? And I'd like to work on them for the winter and then have something happen in the springtime. Unless they want to cut branches off in that wintertime, I don't know that. I'll discuss that with John, our manager.
So let's go to the handy dandy tribunal spreadsheet to see that the roads fund or millage has lost almost $74,000, which means it comes out of our general fund, which was part of our budget discussion, because of the tax tribunal. That's only through 2020, that doesn't count this year. Okay, anything else, Pete? You want to shift to events?
I'm going to go to the events on November 23rd at 6 o'clock in our mall parking lot. We're going to have tree lighting along with Santa Claus, the Grinch. We're going to have singers there, and we'll the kids can come and see Santa Claus. And inside we'll have Super One in there, and they're handing out some free lunch. And I think it's going to be a good time. We made up these Come Catch a Spirit. We're going to cut these in half, and then we'll send them to the school system so that kids will have them.
Great.
And we'll have posters out there. So that'd be November 23rd at 6 o'clock at the Westwood Mall. Come and see us, see Santa Claus and the Grinch.
Bring your Santa letter.
Bring your Santa letter, and enjoy yourself.
Okay, thanks. Ernie?
Along with that, with the young lady that was here tonight, contact them to see if they can do a email blast for all our members about their activity coming up and that, so utilize them as much as we can.
Do we have to be a member first? I don't know. Yeah?
There's a fee.
They get around that. They'll get around that.
We'll see. If he contacts me, I'll mention it to him.
See how much he wants us to join.
Hey, when are they gonna,
Christmas tree
Dangle
this
it in
year.
front of her.
when are they putting the tree up?
Pardon me?
When are they gonna put the tree up?
That I don't know. I've been tied up for the last week or so, but the tree is cut down.
Yeah,
Are we gonna use that? No, that.
I saw that.
As far as I know, the plan is to use the tree that's been cut. I do not know the schedule for putting it up. I think that's where we should leave the conversation for now.
And we lost all our public, so we can skip that. Now, Randy, you have an announcement with your map. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I will grab Roger's microphone because I'll have to explain it here. Okay, so I think it was 3 weeks ago, the county finally decided on their apportionment map, which will, next year for the midterm elections will change who we are voting for county commissioner. We used to be split into 2 districts in the county now, and the apportionment has changed districts, and now we are once again. So this is kind of a pixely, but Marquette Township precincts 1 and 2 and Powell Township 2 are now 1 district in the county, so that's District 3. And I got a different map, I'll show that a little bit closer here. I can get it up here. Okay, so Marquette Township 1, Marquette Township 2, and there's 1 city precinct also in that district. So we've accomplished what the board wanted, except they didn't want to go at 5 commissioners, so they stayed with 6. But we did accomplish getting our township back into 1 district, so.
Do we have just 1 commissioner?
So we will have 1 commissioner for District 3. And like I said, that'll be Marquette Township 1 and 2, the city District 3, Precinct 3, that's really what it is. Powell Township 2. So for the most part, Marquette Township is back where we were 10 years ago. So,
Who's that representative?
well, that we won't know until November of 2022. So yeah, so this map will change the representation in the county. So the commissioners will change based on the new maps. And you have to be a resident of the district to be a commissioner, so.
So right
we'll-
now, we've got the north side, or, well, yeah, as of now.
Yeah, as of now, the township is split into 2. The south half is 1 county district, and the north half is another. So that will change with the election starting in 2022. So just to let the residents know that this board, they did listen, the County Apportionment Committee did listen to our concerns, and we got basically what we wanted. So I really was appreciative to the county clerk that pulled for us to get us back into 1 district. So I'm pretty.
We'll still have 2 precincts for voting.
Yeah, there'll still be 2 precincts for voting purposes, but we will only be voting, so both precincts will be voting for the 1 commissioner, so.
It was pretty chopped up before.
Yeah, well.
Didn't make a lot of sense.
10 years ago, we argued and actually filed a lawsuit that was not successful to put us back in 1 district. And, you know, like I said, I do appreciate the county board, apportionment board, for taking the concerns and, you know, making us back to 1 district, because I think that's important. So, other than that, that's my announcement. So the residents know we're back in 1 district starting next November.
Most residents won't really,
They won't know, sure.
won't know, have very little concern in that.
It affects us more because even when previous manager Gerard and I would meet with the commissioners, we had Johnny DePietro there from the north side of the township and Steve Anamini from the south side. So you had 2 separate commissioners pulling for us, but, you know, on the side of Johnny, and he did a great job. He's a city person, you know, but he kept us up on what information we needed, and I sent a lot of stuff to you in the packets, what was going on at the airport and, you know, anything else in the county. So, next year it'll change.
And I think Lynn had mentioned that editorial. I think that had a lot to do with that apportionment decision too. The League of Women Voters, I don't know if they were totally happy, but I think they were happy that we were put into back to 1 district, so.
They did mention us. And she didn't, whoever wrote it seemed like there were 2 signatures on there. They weren't really complaining about the redistricting committee. They just pointed out that there was kind of a slip up, and hopefully it won't happen again.
Yeah, well,
And the way they handled it.
just a little history, before that map became the final map, there was a map previous to that, that they did sort of flub in their process, but we were not happy with that map, because that map split the township and actually it actually went through voting precincts. So that would have caused a voting precinct to have 2 commissioners. So you would have had to print 2 ballots for a precinct, and it would have been a very confusing thing. So we were very happy that they finally, got the process refined and.
Well, that can't be brought up again until after the next census, correct?
Census in 10 years, yeah, 10 years, so.
We'll all be here. Okay, any other announcements? I did give you one more article that I found on Upset. I put it with your agenda, just for your information. Just a little more reading. Manager's report.
I believe this is the first packet you've received since appointing me where you haven't had a written report. I do apologize for that, but I guess I would respectfully request that we consider not holding strategic planning sessions on board packet preparation day in the future.
Yeah,
That's my
Randy was running
excuse.
around like crazy.
Yeah, especially for Randy's sake. That being said, there's plenty that's been happening around here, and some things that maybe some of you weren't aware of going on that you should be aware of, because I did a presentation to the MWEA conference at the Island Casino. It was actually the day of your last meeting. Clerk Rattari was in attendance. I have no idea how I performed, but it was a presentation on the sewer project that Chocolate Township is currently, actually, that KBIC constructed and Chocolate Township ended up owning it. It was a 5-mile extension of their public sewer system. I was the township manager in Chocolate when the project happened, and MWEA asked if I would be willing to help do the presentation, and of course, I was supposed to help Brad Johnson. And it happened during bow season, and Brad Johnson doesn't work during bow season, so I did the presentation on his behalf. Clerk Rattari can give you a score on my performance. I guess, I hope it was informational, if nothing else. I did meet with Lenny and the folks from Oak Hills, as you heard this evening. That will be continuing, and I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more here in the next few weeks and months. I did take a couple weeks of vacation to finish up my coaching responsibilities for this year. Thank you, by the way, for agreeing to act as a pass-through agency for the 906 Adventure Team, near and dear to my heart, as I've said. And I'm also going to be on vacation this Thursday and Friday to tend to my wife, who's having outpatient surgery on Thursday. So the highway project is coming to a close. I did attend their progress meeting last week. We're anticipating it should be pretty much done by a week from tomorrow, which would include the reopening of the Commerce intersection.
Thank heaven.
And I've conveyed that to Chief Shanahan. He's obviously thrilled to hear that as well. Getting across the highway is very important for responding on that south side. So that's really about it, unless there's any questions.
Ernie?
On Commerce going across, they still got that, what do you want to call it, from into the highway. There's still a big bump there yet. They haven't, so they must have to do it tomorrow or the next day to get it done real quick.
Looking at the weather forecast, I have a feeling they're going to be finishing that paving this weekend when the temperatures are accommodating, because to pave on an MDOT project, I think it has to be like 45 degrees and rising temperature. So the forecast doesn't look favorable again until later this week.
Fortunately, there are some good temperatures coming. Could be the other way real easily.
I took a picture of the snow this morning just to document it. I had it at my house, but you almost had to pull out a microscope to see it because we're so close to the lake.
Some of the areas in Alger County had 8 inches.
I think Alaska
Can
got
we applaud to that?
No, thank God for small miracles.
160 inches, I think, I heard, something like that.
Just so everyone knows, I have no control of how much snow we get when, so don't look at me on that one.
You're the township manager, we expect you to do everything. Who else, any questions?
When we own the roads, I'll work on it.
Nothing else? Okay. Motions? Mr. Clerk?
Okay, a lot of motions tonight, but consent agenda was approved. Approval of the regular agenda as amended with a couple changes was approved. The consider the pass-through for 906 Adventure Team was approved. Number 3. Number 4 was approving the order upfitting equipment for the fire department 2022 pickup truck. That was approved. Fifth motion was to approve the agreement for limited professional services from UPEA, and that was approved. Number 6 was approving the board and committee raises for fiscal year 2022. That was approved. The number 7 was to approve the resolution of salary for the township supervisor. That was approved. Number 8 was to approve the salary of the township clerk for fiscal year 2022. That was approved. Number 9 was to approve the salary of the township treasurer. Resolution of fiscal year 2022, that was approved. And number 10 was to approve the resolution of salary for township trustee for fiscal year 2022, and that was approved. No action items.
Okay, and then a future agenda, right now I've got some tax tribunal information for you. And I've got some more information on the solid waste recycling project for you. Any board member comment? Anything anybody wants to talk about? Ernie? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Pete. I said Ernie when I looked at Randy. Go ahead, Pete.
I missed something that, were we gonna send something out about the recyclable bins in there? Remember we talked about at the meeting that people don't have to put them out every week or something like that?
Yeah, we were waiting, Lenny's gone. He was gonna meet, remember, with our North Country people? John, would you make a note to ask him about that tomorrow, in case I don't see him?
Really, you don't have to put your garbage out every week if it's not full, if you don't choose to.
I don't think people realize that, though. You know, they don't wanna keep it, or they don't want it to smell, or, I don't know.
Just do it automatically.
Yeah, they just put it out.
Put ours out for 2 weeks.
Randy?
Okay, I have a couple items. Just first is for the hunting in the township. Everyone be safe. Be cognitive of where you're hunting. Make sure you're not hunting in a, residential area and such. There's rules. Because there is a lot of land that people hunt in the township. So just be careful and have a successful hunt. And the second item is our board photo. The new one is on the wall in the back above the thermostat. And the previous photo is now retired to the history wall, so. Oh, and that new photo is on our township website under the township board area, so.
Good job. Okay, what else? Anything?
I move to adjourn.
That sounds good. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. 8:24, we are adjourned.